What's up guys, my name's Luke and welcome back to Motion and Design. So I've been messing around a bunch recently with some liquid just to kind of, have fun, see what I could make. And I was trying to create this kind of liquidy rock look. And I ended up making something kind of like what I was looking for, but also not what I was looking for, but whatever it was, it came out really cool. And so I thought I'd do a tutorial on it because I thought it looked pretty cool and it was pretty easy to do. Originally, the way that I did it, I was using some pyro and advancing the actual particles to kind of get this type of look. But I ended up figuring out a way simpler way of doing it, and it literally only involves one modifier. So yeah, let's get straight into this. Before we do, if you like this content, please consider subscribing. And yeah, if you want to support me, I've got a Patreon where you can download all the project files, and I've got some tutorials on there. But yeah, if that doesn't interest you, a like and subscribe is perfect. But yeah, now we can get started. So we're going to do all of this pretty much inside of X particles. I will be using Redshift. You can follow along in Octane. You should be able to follow along in Octane. It's a curvature node when it comes to the actual texturing of it. So if you're using Octane, Octane also has a curvature node. So yeah, just so you know. Cool, so let's start out and actually create our water. Cool, so we have our XP system over here. We're going to go into our meta and let's change this from a rectangle to a sphere and change the radius to about 20 centimeters. Let's go into the emission tab over here, change the speed from 150 to 50 and our radius down to 1. Let's also, while we're here, just increase our birth rate to about 5,000. So now when we press play, we should get a bunch of particles shooting off. So I wanted to get this really weird, organic-y flow to the water. And originally I did it you're kind of using smoke, and it was kind of a convoluted way of getting around to it. It wasn't that great. It also wasn't very easily adjustable. But then I thought, why not use turbulence? But if we had to just use turbulence as it is now, let me show you. It doesn't give us a very good result. We can go into our turbulence over here, bring down the scale, something like that, press play. And you see what I mean? It's everything's shooting off. We're getting these nice big clumps, but then we're also getting all these other ones, and that just doesn't look that nice. But then I realized that we have a bunch of noise types, and this curl one, which I've used before, it is the best noise inside of X particles in my opinion. It just gives such cool results. And look at that, we get really cool looking things, which is almost exactly what I was wanting and saved a lot of time. But yeah, at the moment, this is just a bit much. So let's go and change our scale to about 50. Our strength to maybe around 3. Let's go over here into the blend. Let's bring this down to 10. And let's do 20. Pretty much just halving all of these. Let's see what that looks like. Nice. Now we're getting this really nice result that kind of has this kind of organic-y movement to it, which is exactly what I was looking for. Cool, so now we want it to act a little bit more like liquid. So let's go into our dynamics and put in an XP Fluid FX. And let's change our accuracy from fast to high. And let's see what that looks like. Nice, it's a lot slower now. It's clumping together as if it were kind of a liquid. Let's also just increase our friction over here. Something about there should be perfect. Let's see what that looks like. Nice, that's perfect. The one last thing I want to do is inside of our XP emitter, let's go to our extended data, go to our fluid data, and let's just bring down our viscosity something about 10. And let's see what that looks like. I think that is perfect. Awesome, cool. So let's increase the number of frames over here, and then let's go and mesh this. Actually, before we do, let's just cache. Whenever you're using, hold on, let me just turn off all of these just to save on cache. Whenever you're doing fluids and you're going to be using a mesher, make sure to cache the emitter before you actually use the mesher, because caching the mesher sometimes brings out some really, glitchy results, and also just makes it super slow. So yeah, to speed up process, just make sure that when you're caching, cache first and then add it to the OpenVD mesher. And if you've already got it, just turn off the OpenVD mesher when you're gonna cache. So let's go and add our XP OpenBD, drag in our emitter, and now look, we have some geometry on our particles. Let's change our voxel size. I think I used like 1.5, and let's change our point radius to 4. Nice, I think that looks good. So as this is, it's very clumpy, it doesn't look very nice, but we can make it smooth by going into the filters, turning on this, and let's just add a Gaussian. And yeah, I mean, you can go in here and adjust these a bit, but I think actually for now, this is perfect. Let's see what this looks like. Nice, it gives us this really organic-y, liquidy look. It's a very simple technique, but you know, gives us some cool results and kind of gave me that kind of abstract look I was going for. So yeah, I think this looks cool. Let's go and texture this. So let's open up our Redshift over here. We got our blotches over there. Let's go and make sure we're using Redshift. And let's go and create a dome light, just so we have some lights in the background. And let's create a material, just a normal standard material would be perfect. So that on our mesh over here, let's go and bring down our weight or our diffuse over there. And in the transmission, let's bring this all the way up. Let's also go and decrease the roughness, something about there should be good. We just want a tiny bit of roughness, it really doesn't have to be too much. And so this looks cool, but I wanted some like kind of added details. Originally when I was trying to do this, I was trying to create this kind of like ink drop effects, kind of like if you drop ink on paper, it gives a certain look to it. And so I was trying to get that bit in 3D. You'll see what I mean in a second. But yeah, if we go over here and we now add a curvature node, we drag that into our transmission color, then add a ramp or a ramp, ramp. Drag this in here, and then let's go into our ramp and let's change this to something kind of like this, an orange. I think something like that should be good. Yeah, I think that's perfect. And now all we need to do is clamp this a lot. And now look at that. Let's do a little bit more, and a little bit more, something like that. Now we get these really cool looks in the liquid over here without adding any lighting or anything. This already looks really cool. Yeah, this is kind of the look that I was going for. Let's go and just create a background over here. Let's go and add a graph. Go into our graph over here. No. Let's go C4D. Yeah, shout out to Lucas for this technique of creating these custom little HDRIs in here. But yeah, shout out to him. Yeah, actually I had no idea we could do this, but it is a very nice way of just creating these custom little background gradients. And once that's in here, let's go into our shader and go to gradients. Go inside of our gradients over here, change it to radial, oh, not radial, spherical, wherever that is, circular, there we go, that's one. And then let's change this to a orange as well. We'll just change it to the same orange. Let's just clamp these a little bit, so that we get kind of harsh thing. Let's rotate it until we can actually see it. And we're on this side.
Wow.
What? Just frame this up a little bit. Yeah, I think something like that is fine. We have this nice gradient from light to dark, and that looks pretty decent. So at the moment, the only thing that's lighting this is the actual gradient. But if we had to turn this off, if we had to turn it off, and you see over here, we already have a lot of detail in this, but we want a little bit more detail. So let's go and add another dome light. I don't know why I deleted that other one. Let's go and add an HDRI. So I'm going to be using an HDRI from HDRI Haven. You guys can just download it for free. They are free. I'm going to be using this one called Photo Studio 1. And let's just turn off our background. And now look at that. We're getting these really nice little highlights in here. Like, look at the comparison. Oh, it makes it so much brighter. Isn't that just great? Cool. So the one thing you might want to do I didn't want to do it. I mean, I liked the way it looked, is get rid of these little dark areas over here. That's pretty simple. If we go into our material, go to optimization, turn on this trace depth, and then if we just bring this down by 1, we'll get rid of those little black spots. So if you want to do that, go for it. I didn't feel like I needed to do it. There we go. I liked the little bit of dark over there. So the way that I got it to kind of have a ink drop look to it was going inside of our material, going to base properties, and very simply just turning on thin wall and turning off this one. And look at this, it's kind of like a, I don't know, microbiome. It has that type of look to it. It also just, to me, it kind of looked like coffee. You know, if you had to just like drop coffee in water or on paper, and it had that kind of look to it, which was originally what I was trying to go for. I ended up going with this because this looked cooler, but I kind of did a mix of the two of them. So yeah, depending on the look that you're going for, turning this on and off will give you different results. So any other thing that I did with my render, let me just go a little bit further so we have a little bit more particles. I wanted my render to seem like super tiny, so let's grab a camera over here. Let's make the focal length about like 130. Zoom out a bit, something like that. Let's go and add a null. Grab our little pointer over here, and with our null selected, let's go and drag it and find a point that we want to focus on. So something like here should be good. Let's go into our camera, into optical, and drag this into our object over here. Let's turn on bokeh, and let's set this to something about 1, maybe a little bit more, 0.5. Yeah. And so now with this, we got this really nice depth of field. And depending on the frame that you use, we can get these really nice looks. And if we had to turn this thin wall back on, we still get this type of like micro, I don't know, it kind of just, to me, it kind of looks like a microbiome. But it's a pretty cool effect and a really simple effect. So yeah, it's a bit different to the one that I made. I think there's some slight adjustments that I made. There's also could be, you know, the seed over here, the amount of octaves that you use, kind of mess around with the curl of noise over here. And you can also adjust little bits in here. I mean, literally just changing the accuracy of these things can make a difference. But yeah, I think for the tutorial, this is good. You guys can mess around a little bit more, mess around with colors in here. I mean, we can add more colors into our ramp over here if we want to. Let's see what that looks like actually. What's a nice color that can go with this? That is not a nice color. Let's go with something red. And look at that, we get some really cool results. Let's try something a little bit weird. Go change this color, something like, I mean, yeah, you can get some really cool results. Just make sure if you're doing this that you also change the color of the background, because those are not complementary colors. But yeah, I really hope you enjoyed this tutorial. If you did, please consider liking and subscribing. And yeah, if you're interested in the project files, they will be up on my Patreon. And I hope to see you guys next week. Peace.